This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
When you step into a managerial role and you start managing people, you no longer work for you, you just work for your people. If the team is well, then I think that we can achieve whatever. Being a true professional involves being very self-aware about what you need and ask for it or get it in some form of way. And yeah, I don't believe in it is just not possible to separate the personal life from the work life. We are not in a severance episode.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Mila from Break the Web. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Sharon. It's a pleasure to be here.
I really appreciate it. Could you start by introducing yourself? Maybe you do it differently than me, and tell the audience a little bit about yourself, maybe your professional journey, anything that you think would be relevant to know.
Yes. So, I'm head of operations at Break the Web, SEO for D2C and brands. And my role is a little bit wider than the title. So I am now handling or responsible for finances, team satisfaction, client satisfaction, and operations as well. And a little bit about my background. So I started my career as a content marketer maybe back in like the 2000s, in our tech world that we all share. And then I started working at an agency at around maybe in 2021, and I was a client account manager there. And then I went to head of marketing and finally decided to take a break. I think it was in 2021 or something like that. And then I took a little break because I was facing some burnout. And then I started freelancing and I decided to get a little away from marketing. And then I decided to go into operations, and Break the Web was my first consulting client. And 2 weeks in, and we started talking about me staying on with a role as full time, and the rest is history. It's been I think yeah, and now in February is going to be 1 year with Break the Web, and it has been a fascinating journey.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I'm happy that you like it there and that after that burnout you were able to do something that you really enjoy. I know that that is very difficult. I completely understand the the struggle of burnout. I had 3 jobs in college and at the same time sometimes. And it is real. Burnout is a real and it's troublesome, especially if you have like a very strict work ethic because you kind of feel unfulfilled, but you're also know that you need a break. So it's very difficult to
Absolutely.
grapple with.
Yeah, it comes a time in which something that I learned with that journey was that being a true professional, or at least what it means to me, it involves being very self-aware about what you need and ask for it or get get it in some form of way or way. So I guess that's the one of the learnings from burnout. But I guess in today's era, I think that we are all a little bit ADHD, a little bit burned out. I don't want to use the terms that are not like correct and formal from a to a standpoint, but I feel like everyone knows what we're talking about.
Uh-huh. Kind of hard to focus. A lot of people have very difficult times focusing lately. I think it's increased a lot.
Yeah, comes with a job, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. Using a computer all day is your attention span gets hurt from that.
That happens.
Do do you think that that is, the most important lesson that you've learned from your marketing career? Do you think there's something else that you implement daily or that you make sure you're, holding yourself accountable for, or your team maybe?
So, in terms of marketing, related to marketing, I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that it doesn't matter if it's B2B, e-commerce, corporate, or B2C or B2B. It's all everything human to human. So that, like, realizing that makes the marketing way easier, at least in my opinion. And then regarding the burnout experience, or like my years dealing with the burnout, and also handling a head of marketing position, I learned, yeah, being self-aware is one of the traits of like a good professional. But also, I think from that experience, I was left with a lot of really, really good values, and then that I now translate to my personal life, and also to our work life. To break the wheel, we redefine our values as well last year, and a lot of that comes to kind of it revolves around self awareness and ownership, and challenging with care. So that was that's one of the things I learned from burnout, and then just to reprioritize and get some perspective, because I think at some point I was maybe a little too caught up on it, and you kind of lose track a little bit of what's important, or you lose some perspective. And it took me some time and some work with therapists and coaches and like friends, and a lot of journaling, to understand, or like to reset my priorities and start operating from that standpoint, let's say.
I definitely understand. I think journaling is so helpful. I would hope that more professionals would instill that into their lifestyle. I think that to um to just put your emotions on paper is so weirdly helpful. I don't understand really why. I think your brain is so good at cycling and kind of catastrophizing, whereas when you put something on paper, it makes it so much easier to deal with sometimes. And definitely not even at things as simple as planning out something where it's like you can say that in your head and acknowledge it, and maybe you have a good memory and you'll remember exactly what you're supposed to do. Um but I think that having a plan on paper is super helpful for anyone to do, even if there's someone who is very organized in their brain. I think it's just something that it also makes it easier to understand if you have to explain it to someone else. Putting it on paper can make it more simple. um I think that it's just a really great, I agree for that's a very great way of people resetting and understanding their thoughts. And I think that's just as important to instill in the business world as it is in your everyday lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's very easy to miss the early signs, or the early indicators of burnout. The I think the most relevant ones are energy levels, and then engagement, and then there was one more. I don't remember which one it was, but I do remember that after this episode, I started to asking myself, like on a daily basis, was I productive? Did I feel productive this week? Did I had a lot of energy? Did I feel like I could cope? Like how was my stress? How were my stress levels? Can I manage, or did I feel overwhelmed? And so that's something that we are also translating into a weekly poll on Slack to every team member so that we can keep an eye on those things, and maybe, yeah, detect it early on and do something about it, because it sometimes can happen that you hit the wall and that's it. Your brain just does not cannot move forward with work related stuff, and it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, no, and it's very considerate for you to instill that in your team as well, because I think that's a wonderful thing to gauge where they're at all times, because if you have, a bad week for stats or whatever you use to whatever metric you use to uh tell how good your team is doing at what they're doing, I think that to be able to see how they are emotionally, because people say don't bring, your personal life to work or whatever, but your emotions are your emotions no matter what point of life you're in. And to be able to understand where your team is at, and maybe, stats weren't so good that week, but a lot of team members had a bad week or whatever it may be, is like, that they're not doing this because they, aren't capable of it, or that they're doing it like they're not doing as good as they normally do because they don't want to. It's just sometimes it's a bad week. And to be able to gauge that is really lovely, because um you're acknowledging that these your team are people, first and foremost, but also that um they're not doing poorly or not as good as normal because of other circumstances, or maybe just, I don't know, sometimes you just have a bad day and it has nothing to do with anything that even happened. It's just, you know, um, and you know that you have to change something long term if it's like a regular problem, like in the workload or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea is to be monitoring this week over week, and then if we see that these levels of stress or levels of low energy or low engagement are sustained, then we would have to talk to the person. But sometimes I think even the exercise of asking yourself that makes it come up to the surface, because otherwise you might be like very caught up in tasks and deadlines and whatnot, and you don't even notice
Mhm.
how you are. So I think the exercise of asking yourself, or having this tool to ask you, makes it even more relevant, and it helps to your self-awareness. um and yeah, I don't believe in the it is just not possible to separate the personal life from the work life.
It's not.
We are not in a severance episode, uh, right? So yeah, of course, everything will impact, and there are some. Um, right now, we thankfully have some tools like Oliva Health, for example, that are like basically mental health insurance, in which you can like talk to other people, to therapists or coaches. I remember heavily using that benefit from my previous employer, and it was. I wish more companies would offer that as a benefit, and it's for sure on on our um, on our goals for this year. Uh,
Yeah, I love knowing that agency work specifically, I think, can be very stressful because a lot of times it's about growth, and having that on your back is frightening. On top of it, I think that um it's I feel like many people in agency work are wearers of many hats, and they're doing a lot of different things that maybe aren't under their job position umbrella. And to be able to monitor how you're doing during that time and also have resources to be able to help when you're doing poorly is really important. I also think that I if you value that, I think that you're going to have better work done for your company. Your clients are gonna be happier knowing that, and I think that people don't prioritize that enough because they don't think it's worth it, or, people are gonna work for a paycheck or whatever it may be, but they're going to produce their best quality work when they have their best quality of life, and I think that people don't understand that at or, like, they refuse to acknowledge it a lot of the time.
I I just don't get it. Even more in an agency where literally what you sell is done by people. So if you think about it at some level, and I hope no one takes me out of context when I say this, but your product is the people that is producing it. So I guess if you take care of your people, they will produce the best output that they can because they feel fulfilled, they feel happy, um and they just well, there's this component, and then there's another component that we really look at or really value when hiring, that is the drive. Just people that just intrinsically just want to do good work. That cannot be taught, that cannot be trained. And that's the kind of people that we have at Break the Web. So I believe, or at least we believe from our CEO Jason and myself from the leadership team, um, when you step into a managerial role and you start managing people, you no longer work for you. You just work for your people. So I guess we are very aligned in this concept, in this vision, or this understanding of what servant leadership means. Um, and I think that is the best thing that you can, at least from my perspective. It is one of the key things. If the team is well, then I think that we can achieve whatever. Um, so so yeah, I
No,
hope any
oh, no, I definitely agree with that, and I think that I think this is a really helpful topic to talk about, and I'm happy that it's a more unique topic than I usually talk about. A lot of times it's very business marketing related. And this is, but I I'm happy that we're talking about this because I do think that this is I wish that it wasn't forward thinking. I wish that this was the norm, but unfortunately it isn't. Um and I hope that, people do watch this and, think, "Oh wow, maybe that is important." It is. It is extremely important, and when you value your team and the work that they do, you should make sure that they're being treated correctly. I like human beings, like how you want to be treated, and I think that you know we're taught that from a very young age to treat people how you want to be treated, but then somehow we get in the business world and it's not in practice often. So I think that it's really lovely to hear that you guys are instilling that and actively have goals to do it even better, because that really shows that, you truly value your team and, you know, everything that they do, not only, outside of work, but also in work. So that's really lovely. So thank you for sharing that as well and the importance of it. Um,
Sure.
I'm going to change topics a little bit,
Yes.
but um, so you have been in marketing previously and now being head of operations. Is there anything that you have translated from your other roles that have been very helpful in this role specifically?
Well, that is a great question. I guess you never stop marketing internally.
Hmm.
It's a great thing to do, and I think I've encouraged every team member, but also every department, into to market themselves. And I think maybe, mm, yeah, I don't know. It's very hard when you've been in marketing, um, as I have, that I didn't know anything else until I started working in operations. I feel like your brain just kind of starts speaking marketing. And it is hard to draw the line of which is marketing and which is uh what is other areas. But yeah, for sure, marketing yourself internally. And another thing would be just removing roadblocks for that would block people to do whatever you want them to do.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's a I think something that I would translate to anything in life. Um, but yeah, something that we used to do a lot is like, of course, removing all the barriers that people have to convert or to do whatever you want them to do, to always know or always lead the other person to know what the next step is. And that is critical in operations as well, to make things clear and concise and very, um, to knowing what the next step is and leading them there. I
So
guess
do
that.
you No, that you're very fine. So being head of operations, how are you able to manage your team to not only make sure that they are effectively doing their work, but also that they're effectively communicating? Because I know that that is a very difficult struggle that everyone has, is like having teams actually communicating what they're doing and not kind of being separated and isolated.
Yes. Yes, that's a great question because I think everyone at the team would agree we had a very different break the web in January 2024, and it has radically changed and now in January 2025. And so team story, team effort, teamwork for sure. And one of the problems, I think at some point, we do an ENPS survey for all the in-house team members, and at some point, results were all being like 10 on everything, and like no, not a lot of feedback. So I started, instead of doing that, I schedule like quarterly 15-minute, 30-minute interviews with all the team, with every team member. And then they started, when you have a natural conversation with people, they start talking and sharing their struggles. One of the struggles was people not knowing what the others were doing, which is a common problem. And one of the things that we started doing was, um, first of all, when every team have their team meetings, we require them to do a recap to share with the rest of the team. So we are informed on that over Slack. And then we started having, um, sort of like a weekly stand up,
Mhm.
with the entire team, the all in-house team. But we are not a lot. We are 10, or give or take. And so we do like a review of all the clients and their status and what's going on in every account. And if there are like some questions or roadblocks, we discuss them there. And then if there's anything to discuss, then the specific people can connect after the meeting and resolve those problems. But at least those two things have been incredibly valuable to make sure everyone is aligned on what's happening. And I guess on top of that, I think um, we have a client's success specialist, which is the bridge between all the clients, all the accounts, and the internal team. So she makes sure that everything is aligned and that we are all getting the information that we need, or the recaps from meetings um, that we have with clients, because not obviously not all the team goes to all the client meetings. Um, so so yeah, I would say that. And then having all the communications that pertain to execution on ClickUp and in their respective ClickUp tasks, and then everything that is related to client execution that we manage with them on Notion. Everything stays there, and like having these very clear channels of communication for different purposes, so you know where to go to if you need anything. Um, yeah, I think that.
Yeah, I think that there's it's nice to know that you have clear forms of communication, not only that are scheduled, which I think is very helpful. I think it's very jarring sometimes when you're like you get a message that's like, "Can you get on a meeting now?" I think it's to plan it out is very helpful. And especially when it's a routine thing, I think a lot of people are tend to get frazzled when something's new in their routine, so to have it happen regularly is really effective, I'm sure. And being able to have all these channels that are for very specific things that are organized, I think is a great strategy in order to communicate because everyone knows where everything is at all times if they need it. I think it probably takes a load off certain positions, shoulders because you're able to get feedback or information from a specific place rather than asking them or whatever it may be. So having things organized, I think, is very important in that way.
Yeah, resourcefulness is something important for us, of course, for any small team, because you cannot be available all the time, and we work in various different time zones, so we are not um, online at the same time, all of us. Um, so yeah, I guess that combined with SOBs and having a clear ClickUp structure, knowing who is the owner of what to be able to go directly to them. Yeah, I think all those things combined. Work in progress, of course.
Yeah.
If anyone has tackled this for forever, please contact me and let me know. But I would like to have a talk. But yeah, trying to minimize the friction and making sure that everyone is stays on the loop and understands.
Yeah, no, it's I think that it's important for you to say that it's a work in progress too, because I think that it always is, honestly. I don't think there's a perfect way of doing anything, especially communicating is difficult for all people, even if there's a very clear form of doing it. I think it's uh a barrier between humans sometimes because even though it bridges the gap, I think everyone does it differently. And so it's very difficult to have a uniform way of doing it in which, it's happening optimally.
Even more if you add that we have different cultures.
Mhm.
It's very. I didn't think it was going to be like that, but you start working on it and closely with people from different cultures, and it is palpable that we have different ways of understanding things. Um, since I live in Europe, I've been told I'm very assertive and sometimes like a little direct, very blunt. And I had some people from the US telling me, hey, maybe you can like soften up your message, like say between the lines. And I'm like, okay, I would take that. Like Ade Percor, and the other day we have a new team member and she was being onboarded and it was a very busy day. and then I was just replying very assertively or succinct, like getting things done. And then at some point, I was like, I'm gonna send a voice note. She might there, and I said, I was like, yeah, to like, by the way, all is good. I'm sorry if I'm being blunt or assertive or whatever. Everything is good. I'm just like in getting things done mode. And you're like, oh, I really appreciate the voice note because this is also a thing. Sometimes you need to choose the channel. Sometimes you need to adapt to the context. Um, and to avoid people misinterpreting or like try having to read between the lines, which for me is completely ineffective. But yeah, what might be clear for me might not be clear for someone else, and that is also something that you need to work with. Voice notes or videos as well is nice too. Um, yeah,
No, that's a really I love that you acknowledge that too because I understand as someone who's anxious all the time. I do read between lines way too often and I'm constantly worried that someone's mad at me even though I'm doing my work right. I'm always worried, especially if someone's blunt specifically. I'm like, "Oh my god, they're mad at me because or whatever reason." And something that is super helpful with that is usually but usually it's my boss that I'm scared is mad at me. And if it's anyone else, I mean, they don't have the authority to fire me, so I'm not really worried if they're mad. I'm just kidding, but, usually, if he's not understanding something or whatever, he just calls me or he's like, "Can you jump on a call real quick?" And it's so helpful because especially with misunderstandings, like, some things can seem very clear to you when you're sending it out, but then it's not clear to a team member or the person that you're contacting, and I think that's so helpful because there is, like that even if you seem like you're doing something simply, there is always communication barriers of how people speak and different ways in which they interpret things. So I think the voice memo thing is really lovely that you do that too. I'd probably
yeah.
think you were mad at me too.
Because I think at least you can just you have some more social cues like the tone and the pace and like what words you're using. I think it's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it makes sense too because you see it as being direct and to the point, but then someone else can be like scared. And it's just a common, it's just something that happens with life and communicating with others, so it's not even, um but it's lovely that you acknowledge that and try to remedy it so that, your team members might not be a little afraid that you're mad at them or that they're not doing their jobs.
Yeah, no, it's like the introduction. Like, how do you like to be managed? And I'm like, by the way, this is how I am. Do want to read between the lines. I'll come to you directly if anything. I don't use sarcasm, and that's it. The manual of instructions.
It's really lovely though that you're able to acknowledge that, it's not a fault, it's just a, different communication styles. So it's nice that you acknowledge that your team needs different things sometimes depending how they communicate. So it's um
Yeah.
I think that makes a good leader because it's not like, "Okay, this is my way and this is the only way," and, it's good to, squash any nervousness as soon as possible.
I mean, I think it's the role of the manager to adapt to, and like, not everyone will need to be managed in the same way. That is just, it is obvious, but it's not that clear on how to approach it. Um, I have some people that I can just, where we jump into our one-on-ones, it's just, hey, how you been? And bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's it. And I say, this is the outcome that we need, and you figure it out, and that's perfect. There's some more people that I need to lead the way, um, for which I need to lead the way, or that I need a little bit more like check-ins or different approaches. Some people need a little bit more encouragement, and some others just can. be okay on their own, and as long as you don't bother them, they will come to you. So I think it is the duty, in my opinion, of the manager to understand how the your direct report needs to be managed, and what they need and when, and how to deliver that, because it is not like the tone and the topics and the words are for sure not the same with any of my direct reports. And that is our role, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think that is a very wholesome note to end on because we were a little over time, but that means it was a really great conversation. And I genuinely really appreciate you talking on these topics because I think a lot of them are, again, as I said earlier, not the norm. And I hope that it can be. I heavily believe in everything that you're doing, and I'm happy that you have even more goals in the future to get even better at doing this because it seems like you really value your team members and how you work with them effectively. And I think that's a great thing, and I think that is how a business prospers. So I appreciate you coming on and telling me about this as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For sure, something that we value, all of us at Break the Web. Team is first. And that is how you get that is how you get a great output, great product, and how that is how you keep your team happy. Your clients are going to be happy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Easier said than done.
Yes, of course. So always.
Always your team members. Thank you so much.
Wait.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I had a great time, and yeah, we'll love to chat with anyone, or even continue this conversation somewhere else. And thank you so much again for the time and attention, and for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining me. This was absolutely lovely. I learned a lot, and I'm very excited for this to get out there, and hopefully people will watch it and think, hey, maybe I should do that too.
Nice. Let's
Thank
all do it.
thank you so much again. And everyone watching or listening, thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope that your boss implements things in which seem he cares about you too. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you all.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.